Abundant Excursions Incorporated presents Abundant Living Through Travel series. Join us now.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Angela Smith Ford with Abundant Excursions, and thank you for joining us today on our second edition of Abundant Living Through Travel series. Today we have a special destination that we're going to discuss today, which is Cuba. And we have a special guest today who's going to help us talk about Cuba. She is a familiar face. You should have seen her before. I'm going to let her introduce herself for you real quickly and tell you what she's been doing lately, and what she's been going on. But I would like for you to enjoy, take part, learn about Cuba, and let's go forward today. So, Rose, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm
Thank
so
you
glad
for
to see
having
you.
me.
Yeah.
It's good to be back. You said that I'm a familiar face. I think I am. Probably different hair colors. I don't know. I change it up all the time. I've also changed up where I'm working these days. So
Mhm.
in the past couple of years, you might have remembered me from doing like independent Europe. And now I'm with a company called Globus. So Globus family of brands, including Globus and Cosmos and Avalon Waterways. So yeah, if you've heard anything about them, that's where I am nowadays. I have a big presentation for you today on Cuba. So whenever, I don't know, Angela, whenever you're ready,
Okay.
I'm ready too. Do you
All right.
wanna
Let's
make sure
get
that they can
started.
see the screen?
Yes, ma'am. Let's get started so we can get going.
All right. So, as I did say, I am now with a company called Globus Family of Brands. And, you may be asking just who is Globus and what do we do and how did we begin? Well, I'm really happy to say that this year we are celebrating our 95 years in business. So, we are a stable and strong company. In 1928, there was a young man who purchased a rowboat to transport visitors across Lake Lugano in Switzerland. And this really led to us becoming one of the world's leading travel companies. These rowboats grew into motorboats and then to land by a twist of good fortune and the responsibility to operate a local route for the Swiss National Post. So if you know, in Switzerland, the National Post actually does transport passengers as well. So he was doing that through the 1930s, and the companies grew to a fleet of 12 coaches. And then after World War II, he acquired two other competing motor coach companies, and we grew to 33 coaches. So that was really exciting. By the 1950s, we had expanded from Switzerland and Italy to the French Riviera, to Scandinavia, to Holland, Belgium, and England. And really, innovation was the key ingredient to the success of this organization. So, with his son by his side, in the 60s, the company launched its Cosmos arm, which featured more affordable, value priced European touring for cost conscious travelers. And then in 2003, we added Avalon Waterways to the mix, offering river cruising to our expansive product line. So today, the Globus family of brands is marketed and operated by a network of more than 32 offices around the world, serviced by a group of more than 5,000 professionals. Combined Globus, Cosmos, and Avalon Waterways, we carry over 500,000 passengers each year, making really, again, the organization a leading operator of guided vacations worldwide. So we partner with travel agencies like Angela and Abundant Excursions to bring you the most fascinating of worldwide itineraries. We service 6 continents, 67 countries, and offer 512 vacations. So in this presentation today, let me just switch the screen here. we are going to highlight Cuba. And you're probably wondering, can I travel to Cuba? Well, yes, you can. You can legally travel to Cuba and have been able to do so for the last few years. Now, there's always a lot of information in the media and online about traveling to Cuba, some true, some not so true. So I'm going to quickly go through the qualifications and why Globus can operate programs there. So basically, not everyone can just travel there. You have to have, there's 12 categories for legal travel to Cuba. One of them is not traveling for leisure, which we do when we go on vacations. So the 12 categories that are shown on this slide, if you wanted more detailed information, and only if you're interested, you can find more on the Office of Foreign Assets Control website. They have definitions of each of the categories. But for example, you can state that you are there for family. So if you can prove that less than 3 generations ago family was in Cuba, you can use the general license for family travel. You can do journalistic. So if you're a full-time journalist, you don't just write for a weekly, penny saver type of a publication. You really have to be a full-time schedule of activities in journalism to take that category. But really, we're not here to learn about all the different categories. Most Americans travel under the category of educational activities, or what we call people to people. You're going to hear me say that a lot, people to people, or P2P. This is what Globus and most other tour operators use when taking our groups to Cuba. So you're asking me now, what does P2P or people to P mean? So it really means just sharing your ideas, culture, and communicating with the local Cuban people. Not only will it be Americans learning from the Cubans, but the Cubans learning from the Americans. There should be an exchange back and forth. Now, the Cuban people are warm and friendly and educated and just as curious to learn about our lives in America as we are to learn about them. And because we want these to be genuine P2P or people to people interactions, and some places, maybe you go to an artist studio or one-room schoolhouse where we limit our group size to around 24 people. So this is required by the U.S. government. Globus and any other tour operator must send an employee or paid consultant to join the group. This person's main responsibility is just to make sure that all is going well and that they work with the Cuban tour director and driver. They are also required to document all of the P2P activities, so who we talked to, what we talked about, how long we're with them. And Globus, just like every other tour company out there, must give a written record to the U.S. government of all of our programs. So, traveling to Cuba means keeping to what we call a full-time schedule. So these programs are not like other typical Globus tours where you may do a city sightseeing in the morning and then have the afternoon to explore on your own or go shopping and lay by the pool. That's a normal Globus escorted vacation. Now in Cuba, it's a little bit different. So what does a normal day look like? Well, it usually means leaving your hotel between 8 and 9 in the morning. You're then going to participate in 2 to 3 P2P activities, and then you're going to have lunch. So lunches tend to be more leisurely, like in Latin America. And after lunch, you go out and you participate in 2 or 3 more P2P activities before returning to your hotel, usually between, 4 and 5 p.m. So this is a full-time daily schedule, but it doesn't mean that you are held captive 24/7. So early in the morning before the group leaves for the day, you can go for a walk and explore on your own, or late in the afternoon when you come back from the day's P2P activities, you can take a walk on the beach, go to the famous Tropicana nightclub, maybe see the Buena Vista Social Club perform, or even go to what's really hot, a Cuban baseball game. So you're going to have time for yourself. You're absolutely going to have time for yourself. And, Just to mention, this again is a requirement of participating in a full-time schedule. It's not the rules that are set up by Globus. It's truly set up by the US government. But just think about how much you're going to expand your knowledge of the culture, the history, and these fascinating people of Cuba. So we're going to talk about one of the itineraries. We're going to discover this island nation of Cuba. It's a place filled, again, with friendly people. They're eager to share their lives, their history, and culture with you. Again, they're equally curious to hear about the customs and traditions of the neighboring United States. And we at Globus are going to invite you to join us on this special support for Cuban people program. It's designed around daily interaction with the local residents, and through open-minded conversations and respectful exchanges of ideas with the Cuban people, you're going to experience the trip of a lifetime with a rare opportunity to experience this vibrant culture and captivating country. Now, again, our itineraries do provide that full-time schedule of activities that are intended to enhance the contact with the Cuban people. On this 8-day vacation, your tour of Cuba will start in Havana. You go south to the Bay of Pigs, east to Trinidad, northward again to Cienfuegos, and then back to Havana. So first thing is first, when we travel, what do we have to do? We have to get on an airplane. So we're going to board our flight to Cuba. Now, upon arrival, you are going to meet your motor coach, your driver, who are going to be with you throughout the journey. And also upon arrival, you're going to meet your tour manager and that consultant/Cuban escort. Your tour manager and escort are there to help facilitate your vacation and also to help you with any recommendations during that free time that you have. So when you arrive, we're arriving in Havana. It is the capital city. It's the largest city. We're going to spend 3 days here. It is a bustling city with more than 2 million people. It does have an amazing historic center, which is called the Old Havana. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So I tell everyone, if you're collecting those UNESCO World Heritage Sites on your passport of places that you have to visit, this is definitely on that must see. You're going to also see residential areas, modern high rises. The city center is located right on the beautiful Havana harbor. So much of the city, you're going to notice, is in disrepair. It's in the process of being restored. After the revolution, the government did not put money into its buildings or in their restoration. So again, you're going to see this. Today we do arrive Havana. Tonight, you're going to meet your Globus group leader. You're going to meet your Cuban National Tour Director at 6 p.m. They're going to take you for a welcome meeting and a dinner. This is a good time to meet your fellow program participants, get your questions answered, and really prepare for this fascinating time in Cuba. So on day 2, your day begins with a visit to Jose Fuster's community art project. Here, you're going to discover a surreal world, nothing like you've seen before. You're going to interact with members of the neighborhood to discuss the project's impact on the surrounding area. Then you're going to meet with members of the antique car club called Lo Cubano from the popular TV series Cuban Chrome. So I don't know much about the TV series, but one of my colleagues was talking about it. And there you can also discuss what it takes for these local entrepreneurs to keep these classic American cars running and what it takes to become a member of that car club. Some of them have also these special car club events that they hold each year. So if you're into those classic cars, this is really one of those places, again, on the must-see list. So, again, still on day 2, over lunch at a local paladar. It's a special privately owned restaurant. So these are owned by Cubans with a passion and a talent for fine Cuban food. The menus at the paladares have more variety and are better service than Cuba's government-owned restaurants. The cost of dining in a paladar varies depending on how fancy or down-to-earth the place is. But generally speaking, You can expect to pay between 10 and 30 US dollars per meal. So a lot of our meals are covered. You just want to make sure that you're checking that on our itinerary. Some of these meals will be covered for you. Here on this day, we're going to meet a former Cuban baseball player for a discussion about the history and the love of his favorite pastime in Cuba and, of course, the United States. And before returning to the hotel, we're going to visit a private project focused on repurposing materials to make handbags and dresses. So we're going to speak to the dynamic owner about her personal story of losing her job during the pandemic and how she started her own business. You're also, and this is why I have this picture here, you're also going to enjoy a cigar rolling and rum tasting experience. So tonight you're also going to have another dinner at a local paladar. So lots to do on this itinerary. Day 3. So day 3 starts with a walk through the old streets of Old Havana. Again, the UNESCO World Heritage Site. You're going to discuss with your Cuban tour director Havana's unique architecture, the challenge of renovating the city's exquisite historic buildings, and the future of these restorations. You're going to have a chance to interact with local private artisans while visiting the 4 major squares in Old Havana. And then next, our attention is going to turn to Nobel Prize-winning novelist Ernest Hemingway, who lived in Cuba for more than 30 years and left behind an enduring legacy. It's here that he wrote several books, participated in fishing contests, and enjoyed really the laid-back ambience and warmth of the Cuban people. You're going to engage with the staff at Finca Vigi, his beloved home, and they're going to discuss the process of preserving this historic location. We're going to continue on to an organic farm to discuss their sustainable practices. Lunch again is at a local paladar. We're going to enjoy an interactive mojito making demonstration. They do love their mojitos in Cuba. And to end the day, we're going to visit a local community project to interact with children and volunteers who run this program. This evening is going to be at your leisure, so this is one of those days where you can discuss with your Cuban tour director on the suggestions for dining and additional exploration. So on days 4, 5, and 6, today's travels on day 4 will bring us to the Playa Girón. It's the site of the Bay of Pigs invasion. So for those of you who don't know or just a little fuzzy on history, the Bay of Pigs invasion was a failed military landing operation on the southwestern coast of Cuba in 1961 by Cuban exiles who covertly financed and directed by the United States, who were covertly financed and directed by the United States. It was really aimed at overthrowing Fidel Castro's communist government. They were not successful. On day 4, we're going to be able to discuss with the Cuban tour director the history of this event and the role it played in the Cold War. Over lunch at a local paladar again, we're going to meet a naturalist from the local Cienega de Zapata National Biosphere Reserve and join in a discussion about the concerns we all have for our environment. On day 4, we're still going to continue on to Trinidad, one of the original 7 villas founded by the Spaniards, the crown jewel of Cuba's colonial cities. It was founded in 1514 and today is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. We're going to enjoy dinner again at a local paladar and discuss private enterprise in Cuba with the owners and the staff. Now, as you walk those beautiful streets of Trinidad, just enjoy the architecture, really view those pastel colored houses, the cobblestone streets, the beautiful plazas, and notice the caged songbirds outside the homes, which is still a tradition in Trinidad. Now, there's a totally different feel here than in Havana. There's much less traffic. Most people still get around using bicycles or horse and buggy as means of transportation. So again, it's a totally different feel. On day 5, we're going to start with a stroll through the streets of Trinidad. Again, cobblestone showcase of colonial architecture, those pastel-colored houses decorated with wooden shutters and broad iron grills, as you see in this picture. We're going to visit some of the city's famous landmarks while stopping to meet local self-employed residents and shop owners. And then we're going to visit with Judith Vidal Faifs, private art gallery. We're going to discuss with the artist her process, the inspiration for her work, and her life as an artist. After lunch, we'll engage with the famous Santander family, well known as independent artisans. We're going to visit their workshop and gallery and discuss their history in Cuba and learn how they have been making handmade pottery for over 100 years. This evening is at your leisure in Trinidad. Again, your tour director is going to have suggestions to really make the most of your evening. On day 6, we travel to Cienfuegos and get acquainted on a walk around the historic main square. This was settled by French immigrants more than 150 years ago, and Cienfuegos is often referred to as the Pearl of the South because of its impressive beauty and colorful history. You're going to enjoy a performance by the Cienfuegos Orchestra, which is made up of local independent musicians, and afterward you're going to join a discussion with those artists about their training, their performance schedule, their daily lives. After lunch at a waterside paladar, we're going to return to Havana, and your tour director is going to have more suggestions on what you can do this evening. So day 7, we start the day here with a photo stop at Revolution Square before visiting Beyond Roots. It's a private project dedicated to the Afro-Cuban culture in Cuba. It discusses here the history of the project, the Santeria religion brought to Cuba by the enslaved West Africans, and how this project gives back to the local community. Now, after lunch, we're going to enjoy a workshop at the Havana Compass Dance Company. We'll watch a rehearsal and take some time to speak to the dancers and the teachers about their training, their daily lives, their future careers. And before returning to the hotel, we're going to stop at the Angeles del Futuro. It's the Angels of the Future project, where we're going to enjoy a performance by these future circus performers, and later just really interact with, again, the children and the teachers. Tonight, we will meet again private owners of those classic American cars for a special treat as you jump into a classic 1950s American car and cruise the streets of Havana. So if you've always wanted to do that, this again is your vacation. At the end of this festive evening, you're going to have a farewell dinner where you're going to be treated to a performance by a local music group. It's really the perfect ending to your time in Cuba. And unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. But the best thing about the end of one adventure is that you can start planning your next adventure. So today we travel home from Cuba, but I do have some tips and tricks that I do want to still share with you. So let's talk a little bit about the food. Oh, the food. So I get often asked about the Cuban food. Cuba's menus are influenced by Latin America, Spanish, Caribbean cuisine. Breakfast is going to usually be a large buffet at your hotel. You'll have fresh fruits, cereals, pastries, made to order eggs, pancakes, breakfast meats, cheeses, etc. Lunches and dinners tend to be roasted meats like chicken and pork. The Cuban pork is a specialty, so definitely have that if you like pork. It's usually accompanied by salad, rice and beans, root vegetables. Seafood is also on the menu because Cuba is surrounded by water. The Cuban desserts are very yummy. There's fresh fruits, homemade ice creams, pastries. We talked a little bit about the drinks earlier. So the national drink is the mojito. And most places you go, you'll be handed a mojito or another tropical drink like a daiquiri or pina colada. You can also get standard drinks like beer, wine, soda, juices, and bottled water. Trust me, you are not going to go hungry in Cuba. So we talked again about how you participate, and passengers are expected to fully participate. Anyone who has not submitted all of the necessary government documents to Globus before departure will be canceled. So Angela will work with you to ensure that you have all proper documents delivered to Globus so that you can join the tour. Your baggage allowance is 1 checked and 1 carry-on for a total of 44 pounds. U.S. credit cards, check with your financial institution. I think that's just smart wherever you travel. Check with your financial institution. U.S. cell phones, including smartphones, generally do not work in Cuba. So, again, check with your carrier, maybe purchase a SIM card. You are allowed one camera and one video recorder, so no professional equipment is allowed. The tap water should not be consumed. Bottled water is advisable and readily available. There's no limit on how much money you can spend while in Cuba. The places you choose to spend the money do matter, though. Americans visitors can spend money at businesses linked to the Cuban military. However, the Treasury keeps a list of businesses to whom Americans must not give money. So I would do some research on that. We do offer some guidelines before your travel. We will provide you with that. So most of the businesses are owned by the Cuban military, the ones that the Treasury does not allow or like us to give our money to. Most of these are owned by the Cuban military or security services, which, we still have a little bit of a frosty relationship with. Now, there are limits on what you can bring back to the U.S. from Cuba. You cannot import the original alcohol and tobacco products into the U.S., not even from third-party countries. All this information can change frequently. So for more information, you can always access the U.S. State Department website. And I do recommend that you keep all of your documents, receipts, records for at least up to 5 years after your trip to Cuba, because the U.S. government can ask you at any time in those 5 years about your travels to Cuba. And it's not to scare you, it's just to bring you some information. So with that, I want to also say we have many, many departures that are still available from August through to December of 2023. So if you're looking for a 2023 departure, Angela and I would like to offer you a $50 per person discount. So if you book between today and May 9th, Angela's going to be able to add that $50 per person discount to your 2023 departure. Now, with that being said, and as this presentation highlighting Cuba comes to an end, I really just want to thank you from me and Angela allowing me to come back and do a presentation, but also from Globus family of brands. So muchas gracias. Buen viaje. And as I say this, I'm just going to open it up. Let's see if we have any questions from the audience. And I'm going to also take some time to show the screen as Angela's information. So if you don't know how to get a hold of her, here's her contact information. So Angela, are you still with us?
I am still here, but as I was going through the whole process as you were listening to you and all that, my camera and my camera on my laptop and the camera on my backup all went out crazy. So I'm here. I am here.
Well, your beautiful picture is still up on the screen.
That's right. So you can see me. That's what I look like. So
absolutely.
But yeah. So anyway, it's just craziness. But anyway. So yes, thank you so much. I am the car. Everybody as far as Cuba, those cars. Yeah, we can actually ride them.
Yes. You get in and you would actually be riding in one of them. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I like that. And I know the guys who were into the cigars, I know they would love that as well too. And then also the food. I'm a foodie, so I definitely love the food option.
Yeah, I mean it's all about the food, the drink. It's about the culture and getting to know the history, culture, the people. As you probably heard, just as I was going through the presentation, there's so much opportunity to really dive in and get to know these people. It's not just another tour where, again, you're going on a quick sightseeing in the morning and then, back to your hotel, or maybe you go out for a walk. This is really an immersive itinerary.
Oh yeah, definitely. So you're getting everything.
Yeah.
for sure in it. So very good. Thank you so much again. You guys, I hope you had a very informative this was a very informative webinar for you guys to learn about Cuba. If you're ever interested in going to Cuba, if you never even thought about going to Cuba, hopefully this webinar gave you some insight and said, maybe I want to put Cuba on my list of destinations to go. And so also, as you saw at the end, the promo that Rose was offering for those who are interested, who might be interested in going to Cuba for this year, definitely reach out to me via those numbers there, email, phone, however so. And if you're interested, I'll be more than happy to help you with that. Okay. Again, thank you so much. I don't know, I haven't looked and I didn't see any questions when I was going through, so I don't think we have any questions. So
You'll have a bunch more. You'll have a bunch more after this.
Right. I know. If you do have any questions or any concerns, definitely do reach out to me directly and I'll be more than happy to assist you. Thank you again. We'll be in touch with our next series. We'll talk about that later as to where we'll be touching next, and don't want to disclose that right now, but we'll talk about that next.
Exactly.
Right. All right, you guys, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Have a lovely Tuesday, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of the Abundant Living Through Travel series. Thank you to our travel partners who shared their time with us today. Until next time, continue to live life more abundantly through travel.